Have you ever had someone weaponize their church community against you and your children? My ex-mother-in-law sent 6 church ladies to corner and harass my 15-year-old daughter at a farmer's market on her birthday. So I made beautiful binders full of evidence exposing my ex-husband's affair, his parents' cover-up, and their abuse of my daughters, and left them at the church disguised as hymn books. By the end of the week, my ex-in-laws were shamed out of their church entirely. This is a story about religious manipulation, family trauma, and the most satisfying revenge binders ever created. I'm 46 years old with 2 daughters, aged 17 and 15. Last year, my ex-husband died in an accident. We were in the middle of a divorce when it happened. When someone dies, especially the father of your children, you'd expect families to come together and support each other through grief, right? That's what civilized people do. That's not what happened. My daughters have had a strained relationship with their paternal grandparents for years, but it became absolutely toxic after my ex's death. And here's why. When my ex died, it came out that he'd been living a double life. He had 2 young sons with his affair partner. Sons my daughters never knew existed. His affair partner also died shortly after he did, leaving these 2 little boys orphaned. Now here's where it gets messy. My ex-in-laws have been trying to accomplish 2 impossible things since this happened. First, they've been trying to get custody of my daughters. We're going to court over that, and they're going to lose. Second, they've been trying to move in with us. That will never, ever happen. The relationship between my daughters and their paternal grandparents is beyond repair. And there are very good reasons for that. There's something that makes this whole situation even more traumatic. My daughters were the ones who discovered their father's affair. Let me say that again. My teenage daughters, who were 16 and 14 at the time, were the ones who found out their father was cheating on me. They saw the messages, the photos, the evidence. They came to me, devastated and traumatized, to tell me what their father had been doing. Imagine being that age and discovering your father has been living a double life. That he has another woman. That he has children with her. Children he kept secret from everyone. My daughters are in therapy to process this trauma. They have every right to be angry, hurt, and unwilling to have anything to do with those affair children or the grandparents who enabled their father's behavior. But my ex-in-laws don't see it that way. They think my daughters should just get over it and play happy family with everyone. Last week was my youngest daughter's 15th birthday. Her actual party is later this month with friends, but I wanted to do something special for her on the actual day. We have a weekend farmers market where local farmers sell fresh produce, eggs, meats, and other products. My daughters love it there. I decided to give my youngest a birthday budget and let her go wild buying whatever she wanted. Knowing her, mostly chocolate and sweets. She was having a great time, running around from stall to stall. After about an hour, I started getting a little worried because I hadn't seen her in a while. Just as I was about to call her, my phone rang. It was her. She was crying. She told me some weird people had cornered her and were yelling at her. I immediately grabbed my oldest daughter and we ran to find her. What I found made my blood boil. 6 older women, all in their 60s and 70s, had surrounded my 15-year-old daughter. They were berating her, calling her unchristian, for refusing to spend time with her paternal grandparents. They were lecturing her about needing to be a good big sister to her poor orphaned baby brothers. My daughter, who was just trying to enjoy her birthday shopping, was backed into a corner by 6 grown women screaming at her about religion and family duty. On her birthday, I immediately pushed through the group and got between them and my daughter. I told my oldest to take her sister, pay for whatever she picked out, and go wait in the car. Then I turned to face these women. I recognized some of them. They were members of my ex-in-law's church, a church I used to attend when I was married to my ex. I absolutely tore into them. I told them they had no right to corner a child. No right to harass her on her birthday. No right to involve themselves in our private family business. You know what they said to me. They told me I was even worse than my daughters because I was refusing to obey my ex-in-laws like a good Christian wife. I'm sorry, what? Obey my ex-in-laws? Like a good Christian wife? To a man I divorced. Who then died. The argument escalated fast. We were all yelling. It got so loud that market security came over and asked all of us to leave. I went to the car where my daughters were waiting. The group of women followed me like a flock of judgmental vultures, still trying to lecture me about Christian duty. I got in the car and drove away. My youngest's birthday was completely ruined. After my daughters went to bed that night, I was still furious. I needed to understand why these church ladies thought cornering a teenager was acceptable behavior. I reached out to a friend who still attends that church, someone I'm on good terms with. I told him what happened and asked if he knew anything about it. He did, and what he told me made everything click into place. My ex-mother-in-law had posted a massive sob story on the church's Facebook group. She painted my daughters and me as horrible, cruel people. She claimed we were leaving her and her husband homeless and penniless, which is a complete lie. They inherited my ex's personal bank account and his life insurance money. She said my daughters refused to even speak to them, which is true, but she left out all the reasons why. She accused us of being the reason she lost her grandsons, the affair children who are now living with distant relatives. It was a Hallmark movie-level manipulation designed to make the church feel sorry for them and angry at us. And it worked. The extremist members of the church were rallying around them, offering support, and apparently organizing harassment campaigns against my family. But here's the really twisted part. She never mentioned the affair. This church has views I strongly disagree with on many topics, especially LGBTQ+ issues. But they have one redeeming quality: they are incredibly strict about cheating. Adultery is a huge sin in this community. It doesn't matter if it's the husband or the wife, cheating is treated as a massive moral failing. People who commit adultery are shamed, judged, and often ostracized. So how did my ex-mother-in-law explain the existence of two affair children without admitting her son cheated on me? She lied. She told the entire church that the other woman was our surrogate because I was supposedly unable to have more children. Then she claimed I didn't want the babies because they were boys. She accused me of rejecting children based on their gender, of abandoning babies who needed a home, of being cold-hearted and cruel. None of it was true. But the church believed her because she's a sweet old lady who's been a member for decades. When my friend told me about this lie, I knew exactly what I had to do. The truth needed to come out. Fortunately, I had everything I needed to expose the truth. When my ex died, we were mid-divorce. That divorce was never finalized because he passed away before it could be completed. Which means I'm not bound by any confidentiality agreements or settlement terms. I was completely free to release everything. And I had everything. Photos of my ex with his affair partner. Text conversations between them. Messages where his parents admitted they knew about the affair and supported him. Screenshots of my ex-in-laws harassing me about the divorce. But the most damning evidence. Emails and texts of my ex-in-laws bullying my daughters about their baby brothers. In one message, sent just 2 days after my ex died, they called my daughters bastards and told them it was their fault their father died. They said if my daughters hadn't told me about the affair, I wouldn't have filed for divorce and their son would still be alive. They blamed my teenage daughters for their father's death. 2 days after he died. Reading those messages again made me sick. But it also made me determined. I took the next day off work and went to a print shop. I had them print everything. Every photo, every text, every email. I paid extra for beautiful high-quality color printing on nice paper. Then I went home and spent hours creating personalized binders. I designed them to look exactly like the little hymn booklets the church hands out during services. Same size, same aesthetic, same general appearance. Anyone picking one up would think it was just another church resource. The very first image when you opened a binder. A photo of my ex and his affair partner making out in our living room. Their faces were crystal clear. The woman looked nothing like me, completely different skin tone, different hair color, obviously not me. Underneath the photo, I wrote in elegant calligraphy, ex-husband's name and affair partner's name, a love story. The rest of the binder was organized chronologically. The affair messages. The text conversations. Emails from my ex-in-laws admitting they knew about the affair. Their harassment messages to me. And finally, the cruel messages they sent to my daughters. I made multiple copies. Beautiful, professionally made revenge binders. The next Sunday, I drove to the church before services started. There's a desk in the back where they keep extra hymn books and song sheets for people who forget their own or for visitors. They never check that desk. People just grab what they need. I placed my beautiful revenge binders right there with the other materials. They looked completely natural, like they belonged. Then I left and waited. The gossip mill moved fast. Within hours, the church's Facebook group exploded. People were calling my ex and his affair partner names so terrible that the pastor himself had to intervene just to keep things relatively PG-13. The language people were using was absolutely brutal. Church members were furious at my ex-in-laws. Furious that they'd covered up the affair. Furious about how they'd treated my daughters. The messages calling my daughters bastards and blaming them for their father's death particularly outraged people. But here's what made me laugh. Even with all the evidence, some people still thought I was partially in the wrong for getting divorced. But they said, it is understandable that I failed in my duties after the shock, and that I would, possibly one day return to the light, unlike my cheating husband and his Jezebel. They used much harsher language than Jezebel on Facebook, but I can't repeat it here. I received 2 handwritten apology letters in the mail addressed to my daughters. I also got an invitation to join the church for support and guidance. I declined. As for my ex-in-laws, they were completely shamed out of the church. The community that had rallied around them, that had sent women to harass my daughter at a farmer's market, turned on them completely. My ex-mother-in-law made a Facebook post on her personal page about how alienated and abandoned she feels. How no one cares about the elderly anymore. How she wishes her great son was still alive because he would have taken care of her and her husband. With what money, I have no idea. I was the breadwinner in our marriage, not him. She's been cut off from her entire social support system. The church was her whole life, and now she's been effectively exiled from it. One thing I should clarify, my ex had a will that named his parents as beneficiaries, not our daughters. He had always told me he'd named our daughters as beneficiaries. I believed him. I never pushed for me to be named because my own will has our daughters as beneficiaries, not him. Turns out, he lied about that too. His parents got his bank account and life insurance money. So when my ex-mother-in-law claimed they were homeless and penniless because of me. Complete fabrication. They inherited everything he had. This whole situation has been about one thing: protecting my daughters from further abuse. They discovered their father's affair. They're dealing with the trauma of that betrayal. They lost their father. They found out he had secret children. And through all of that, their paternal grandparents have been bullying them, manipulating them, and trying to force them into relationships they don't want. My daughters are in therapy. They're healing. And they're learning that they have the right to set boundaries, even with family. The church harassment was the final straw. When those 6 women cornered my 15-year-old daughter on her birthday, they crossed a line I couldn't ignore. The binders weren't just about revenge, though I won't lie, the revenge was satisfying. They were about exposing the truth and protecting my daughters from further harm. What did I learn from all this? First, people will believe a convincing lie over an uncomfortable truth, especially if the liar is someone they trust. My ex-mother-in-law manipulated an entire church community with a fake story about surrogacy because the truth, that her son was an adulterer, was too shameful to admit. Second, religious communities can be weaponized. Those 6 women genuinely believed they were doing God's work by cornering my daughter. They thought they were helping. That's how powerful manipulation can be. Third, the truth is powerful. Once people saw the actual evidence, not my ex-mother-in-law's version, but the real photos, texts, and emails, their entire perspective shifted. Fourth, protecting your children should always come first, even if it means burning bridges with extended family or exposing ugly truths. And finally, never underestimate the power of a well-designed binder. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people see the truth in beautiful, high-quality print. My daughters are doing better. The therapy is helping. They're learning to process their trauma and set healthy boundaries. We don't have contact with my ex-in-laws anymore. The custody battle is ongoing, but they have no real case. The church community has left us alone since the binders incident. I think they're too embarrassed about what happened. My youngest daughter's birthday party later this month is going to be amazing. I'm making sure of it. She deserves to have a celebration that's actually about her, not about family drama. And those beautiful revenge binders. They're still circulating in the church community, I hear. Apparently, some people made copies. I can't say I'm sorry about that. Was what I did ethical? Probably not entirely. I exposed private information, manipulated a religious community, and deliberately crafted materials to cause maximum shame and embarrassment. But here's the thing, those people cornered my child. They harassed her on her birthday. They participated in a campaign of emotional abuse against my daughters based on lies. They chose to involve themselves in a situation they didn't understand, armed with false information, and they hurt my child. So I gave them the truth. In beautiful, high-quality, impossible-to-ignore format. If that makes me wrong, I can live with that. My daughters are safe, the harassment has stopped, and my ex-in-laws have lost their platform for manipulation. That's all that matters to me. So what do you think? Did I go too far, or was this justified? Have you ever had to deal with manipulative in-laws or religious harassment? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story of creative church revenge, hit that subscribe button for more tales of standing up to family manipulation. Thanks for watching, and remember, if someone sends a mob after your kids, sometimes the best response is the truth in a pretty package. I'll see you in the next one.